Hello, we are back here. I welcome you back once again to Harvest Moon. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up this playthrough today. But before I do that, I'm gonna relay some details on a couple of matters. There will be no streams at all next week as I will be out of town, so I won't be here to stream anything. So I will return to streaming on September 5th, where I'll be returning back with the 14 raid group to continue our suffering, more or less. And also, when I do return, there will probably be a change in the actual streaming schedule itself. I've decided that for now, outside of like special streams like 14 patch releases and things like that, these 4-hour streams I've been trying to do on Sunday just are not really sustainable to me. Not because of the amount of streaming, more so that how much I'm doing in one burst. So I think I'm going to go back to separating the 4-hour stream into 2 hours on Sunday and 2 hours on Wednesday instead, because that feels like it's a little bit more manageable on a case-by-case basis. So that's the plan currently. I haven't decided on the specific time frames I'm going to do on those days yet, but I'll be sure to let you guys know as soon as I know for sure. Now, getting back to the Harvest Moon thing. Now, as during my last stream, I got through spring and entered summer of the second year. Now, you may ask why this plans to be my final stream. Well, during the last stream, I kind of remembered why this one is so hard for me to get through. As the technical problems and some of the limitations start showing their ugly heads at this point in the game, which causes a lot of issues, unfortunately. I'll probably go into more details as we get started, but at this point, the game kind of starts doing the same thing, and there isn't a whole lot else to do, so I think this is probably a good point to stop, and then when I come back from vacation, to move on to something else to stream instead, I think. So let's get through a little bit more of it just for entertainment value here, and I'll give my final thoughts on the game once we get towards the end of the stream here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's see, I got up to 7th of summer, so yeah, that's right, I cut the stream a little short that night. So I didn't get that far into summer, but let's go ahead and proceed. As before, we gotta start by dealing with the animals, which are actually starting to become a little bit of a burden for probably unintended reasons. I still haven't figured out if this problem I'm having is just part of the Switch port, or if it's just a problem with the original game. I don't remember exactly, but as you can kind of see, the animals are becoming very, very laggy now that I have all 12 of them. It makes this first part of the day extremely tedious. So, let's see how this goes here. You can see it's getting really bad. I probably should have just played the game without putting it through the capture card and just see if it's a problem with the capture card, but I don't think it is. Really don't think it is. Yeah, this is pretty torturous here. It's worse, the slowdown sometimes makes it feel like am in the right position to put the food in, but I'm not, and I just end up throwing past it just because the game's lagging, so it's putting me further back than I think I am. So you can see more of the cows that are on the stream, the slower the thing goes. Chickens don't lag the screen as much, but they have other problems. The problem is, in this game, the animals are basically like solid objects, so you can't actually walk through them. So, they're just constantly in the way. Sometimes I just accidentally pick them up because they're right next to something else. The thing is, a lot of other games in this franchise tend to basically make things easier for you, where you're able to do more in a given day just with the availability you have. But this one doesn't do that so well, unfortunately. The more you have, the more difficult everything seems to get, and it never really seems to improve very much. Mostly because the days are too short. And because the days are so short, you're forced to keep them inside, which creates this mess of trying to get things in and out of there and weave around them. But how long did the animals take me to do in this session? More than the entire 2 or 3 days outside, just because of the way it's slowing down constantly. Ugh. Okay, nothing's growing yet, so... Eat the water. That's all I can hold for now. Yep, 99. Okay. Oh, right, I can't even plant anything if I have no stamina. Okay. Keep forgetting that. And there's not really anything else for me to do. Let's get a wrap up early today. Yep, nope. Props yet. And, I mean, this is also the point in the game where you start running into another major issue of just there not really being that much to do. Most of these games get around that fact usually by offering other ways to spend money on things, or other upgrades for the farm, or things that allow you to do different things, or create different items, or things like that. This one doesn't really do that. Once you have all your cows, built your houses, gotten married, and do all that, there's not really much else to do. And as I said before, the days are so short in this one that you can't literally do anything else. By the time you do the basic farm stuff, there's really nothing else you can do. You can't leave town or do anything, because that's rule that the game sets up where you can't stay out past nighttime if you're married, because that upsets the wife somehow, where in future games they really don't do very much of that. So yeah, this probably go in more detail towards the end when I give my thoughts here, but yeah. Even though I'm giving quite a few thoughts, even without needing to have a exit thing here. Said it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for this slowdown issue with the cow barn. This is so painful. Nope, we're not doing that. Make your advertisement someplace else. Pay some bot to artificially grow my channel when I don't make any money off any of this stuff anyway. That's the sad part about this is that what keeps me from leaving town or trying to do anything else is that the only ways you can recover stamina in this game are like very few places. And the time it takes to get to any of those places where you recover stamina takes too long. So there's not really, so that's why when I keep running out of stamina, I'm just immediately going to bed because there's no point even trying to go anywhere else. Even if I could recover the stamina, by the time I got back to the farm, it'd be already too late to make any use of it. I don't think I'm going to make it a full 2 hours on this one, on this section, but we'll do what we can here. I'm already pretty tired. I've been cleaning my house all weekend to prepare for this trip that I'm leaving for this week. So it's like I'm kind of already drained. I'm already feeling it. Unlike in the Final Fantasy XIV section of this stream, I don't have any poor pronunciation to make this remotely entertaining or funny. And more of those, there's still that. Just kind of feels like this stream is just relaying all my final thoughts even before I get to the section where I actually do that. So, it may not even be necessary to do that. The animal care sections each day are taking me so long that it's like, am I even keeping up here? And I missed completely because my vision just blurred out there for a moment, which is always good. So if I have tomatoes today, so... Oops, I still needed that. Okay, I'm actually drifting a lot more than I thought I am, and my head's dipping, so... We're probably gonna go ahead and cut this earlier than I originally planned to. Yeah, this isn't working for me, so this is also why I'm considering cutting down how long I stream for, because it seems like as soon as I get into this 3 or 4 hour mark, I just start falling to pieces here. So before we conclude for tonight, I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts here on Harvest Moon here. So, as I kind of stated before, many times when I've talked about older games on this stream, I brought up the subject of first game syndrome, where the first game in a franchise suffers heavily from its own ambition in many ways, and Harvest Moon definitely falls into that category. The biggest problem with Harvest Moon is simply that what the game needed in order to work very well was just not possible on the Super Nintendo. Issues with things like the lack of a proper inventory system, interactions with citizens and in the town, the number of crops that are available, the functionality of the tools you have are all extremely limited by the Super Nintendo's limited memory. Now, it's important to separate memory from graphics in this regard, because though they can be interlinked, they're not always the same thing. The biggest issue with inventory systems and things like that in a lot of old games has to do with the lack of memory to store values and less to do with how complicated the graphic system is. So even though Harvest Moon is a fairly simplified graphic game, it has a lot of memory demands on it by maintaining the number of items, what's in the field, what's in the barns, all that. And some of that is a little bit too much for the Super Nintendo when it's trying to keep track of this many elements. It's why a lot of old games like this would have like strict inventory limits and things like that. because the amount of memory that was used to devote to those elements was extremely limited. Because unless you were like working with Nintendo and using one of their more advanced cartridge configurations, there just was not enough memory in the console itself to pull off everything it needed to do. That being said, the game isn't bad, but it's butting up against limitations it can't really get around, especially as late into the console's life as this one was released. Future games in the series would address most of these problems and become more stable, more user-friendly experiences, and better all around. However, the game had a charm when it first came out, I think, and without the existence of this one, of course, none of those other ones probably would have existed either. And the game still has decent graphical charm to it, and I love the soundtrack for this game. It's pleasant in a way that isn't extremely memorable, but still fits the style of the game in question. So hopefully eventually I might be able to tackle one of the later games in the series, or a game like it, like Stardew or something like that down the road. But those games take more time to start up and get into, just because there's a lot of early startup issues with that. So it'll be probably a great distance down the road before we tackle anything like this again. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Harvest Moon. It was a great concept. It was just too early for proper execution. In fact, Harvest Moon wouldn't really hit its first major strife in development until the Nintendo 64 version would come out a few years later. Harvest Moon 64, and there are even a couple of Game Boy ports they had, which also I think ended up working a little bit better just by scaling everything down a little bit more. This game is just simply trying to do too much for what it's capable of doing. But anyway, that was Harvest Moon. We are going to go ahead and wrap this up for today. We will be, as I said, I'll be back on September 5th to continue our Final Fantasy XIV raid nights. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.